They call him the Merchant of Death. He's been referred to in the press as the world's most notorious weapons trafficker. He's this man, Viktor Bout. He's a former Soviet military and intelligence officer and a convicted international arms dealer who was arrested in Thailand in 2008 in an elaborate 4-month sting operation that involved American DEA agents posing as Colombian rebels. According to federal prosecutors, Bout agreed to sell, among other things, quote, hundreds of surface-to-air missiles, over 20,000 AK-47 firearms, 10 million rounds of ammunition, and 5 tons of C4 plastic explosives, with the understanding that the weapons would be used to kill Americans. His story was wild enough to inspire a Hollywood film starring Nicolas Cage, but Viktor Bout's real-life story did not have a Hollywood ending. He was convicted in the U.S. on all 4 counts, including conspiring to kill Americans and conspiring to provide material support to terrorists. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison and has currently served over 10 years of that sentence. Now, that convicted international weapons trafficker, the Merchant of Death, is reportedly who Russia wants back in exchange for releasing WNBA star and 2-time Olympic gold medalist Brittney Griner. You'll remember 4.5 months ago, in February, Ms. Griner was arrested at a Moscow airport where Russian officials say they found vape cartridges with traces of cannabis oil in her luggage. They arrested her and they charged her with trafficking in narcotics. It just so happened that Griner was arrested and detained just a week before Russia invaded Ukraine. What a curious coincidence. Today, Brittney Griner appeared in court for day 1 of her sham trial, where she faces a prison sentence of 10 years if convicted. She arrived at the courtroom in the suburbs of Moscow today in handcuffs and wearing a Jimi Hendrix T-shirt. Her wife said today that every time Griner, who is nearly 7 feet tall, has to go to court, which is a 5-hour round trip, every time she is transported in, quote, a very, very, very tiny cage, her knees bent, feet up to the ground, because it's not big enough for her to fit in. She's due back in court next Thursday. It's important to note that according to the Associated Press, fewer than 1% of defendants in Russian criminal cases are acquitted. Because this is Vladimir Putin's court. Now, the rumored prisoner swap reportedly also includes this man, Paul Whelan, a former U.S. Marine who's been imprisoned in Russia on espionage charges for over 3 years. In fact, Russian state media claims that prisoner exchange talks are already underway. Brittney Griner is a very, very vulnerable pawn of Vladimir Putin. Holding her essentially hostage, a star American athlete is arguably one of the best things to happen to Putin since he invaded Ukraine and started a war there. It's the irony of being a political prisoner when you're in jail, not for doing anything remotely political. Joining us now is Kimberly St. Julian Varnon. She is a PhD student in history at the University of Pennsylvania who focuses on Russia and the Soviet Union, and particularly African-American experiences there. Ms. St. Julian Varnon, thank you for making time to be with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I understand that you consulted with the WNBA Players Union regarding Brittney Griner's imprisonment. Can you tell us a bit about that conversation?
So I started consulting with the WNBA Players Union early on in Brittney's case, and it was our initial discussion, and I was explaining just the differences between the Russian and American legal systems, but also to explain the context in which Brittney was being held and detained, and the ways in which the war in Ukraine fundamentally made her case unique in many ways, including the types of asks that Russia would want from the United States in order to get her released.
She's a big deal. And in terms, they've got this case against her for dealing in drugs, notwithstanding the fact that all they found on her was a vape and they say cannabis oil. That's not much of a thing. That's not why she's really in jail. That's not what this is about. Would you agree?
I completely agree. I mean, just today in her trial, the state prosecutor talked about, I think they found 0.7 grams of hashish oil total in her luggage, allegedly. And so the problem is Brittney is the best chance for Russia to try to get Viktor Bout out of the United States in a very high profile prisoner swap. So I can't help but think that her detainment was both a political move in terms of getting Viktor Bout out, but also it gives Russia leverage over the United States in terms of what it can ask America to do in regards to the war in Ukraine and our military support for Ukraine.
What do you know anything about how she's doing? I mean, this has got to be very, very rough on her.
I mean, it's completely rough. I mean, she's in a foreign country. She's far away from home. She hasn't been able to speak directly to her wife. There's a failed phone call last week. But according to Russian media reports, she has been doing well, and she is keeping her hopes up. And she's trying to, be as strong as she can until she can come home and be safe. And I think that's just what she will have to do. You mentioned that her wife, Cherelle, talked about her being put into a cage to be transported to and from the prison. That's actually standard procedure for Russia, but also in most trials, the defendants are held in cages. As people are testifying, as witnesses are, discussing what happened, they're held in cages. So she's constantly in this uncomfortable state, but also she's a visible minority in a country, not just the fact she's almost 7 feet tall, she's a Black woman, and she's a gay Black woman. All of these things exacerbate her situation in Russia.
How does just tell me a little bit more about that. How does being a gay Black woman make things worse for her?
Well, Russia has some of the most cruel anti-LGBTQ laws in the world. You have people facing prison sentences for allegedly promoting unnatural lifestyles. And that means just talking about being gay or having a gay relationship in public. So you start seeing these crackdowns happening in Russia. And the fact that Brittney Griner is not only gay, she's openly gay, she's also married to a woman. All of these things kind of compound her being seen as different from Russia, as not Russian, but also as anti-moral in the way that Russians see morals at this point under Putin. But her being Black means she's a very hyper-visible minority in a country that's overwhelmingly Slavic. And so she's in a particular situation where if Russia wants to present itself as the antithesis to the United States, they could treat her well to talk about how racist the United States is. On the flip side, Russia can engage in white supremacy that it has for a long time under Putin and kind of promote this white supremacist anti-Black violence against her. So it really depends on how Putin wants to place himself in this situation.
Should the U.S. government, do you think they're doing enough, and can they be doing more?
I think it depends. So you have a kind of, I call it a sticky wicket, because I think they should be and probably are doing everything that they can to get her out undercover. I mean, these are high-level conversations that are going to be held that most Americans won't know about. So on the flip side is, if you do get Brittney released, the fear is that you set a precedent for kidnapping and detaining essentially high-level Americans for any other future Russian criminals who were held in American custody. So I think that's kind of another thing that the Biden administration has to think about. But finally, you have the domestic support for Brittney Griner, and people want to know, why isn't she home and why isn't more being done? Because she is a celebrity, but also she's a Black woman. And Black women have been carrying this country. So we want answers about her whereabouts and how they're going to get her home. So it's a very difficult situation, and there are a lot of moving pieces in this case right now.
Kimberly St. Julian Varnon is a PhD student in history at the University of Pennsylvania. We thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.